All right. Hey there, outliers. Niiamah and Shang here. And thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey here today. We have an incredible roundtable set up for you with two awesome trailblazers who not just like walk the talk, but they fly. They go through and they keep creating in ways that most other people wouldn't think possible. And it's just a Tuesday for them. So I'm very excited for you to get to know them. Why don't we start off with you, Sarah? Sarah, would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're playing?
Hi, yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. My name's Sarah Mack, and honestly, I'm really all about having fun. And I think that's the thing that drives every decision that I make. As someone who grew up super creative and, being told so many times by people in my life that I should not pursue my creativity and my career, and taking the most sensible job that I would kind of entertain, which was working on film crews in the film industry, being something that was like within the creative industries, but still, had the capacity to earn some decent money. And then having a really bad burnout that really forced me to listen to myself and acknowledge really who I was and what it is that I really wanted. That's when I pivoted into entrepreneurship. And I had to, yeah, like just shift my identity and my belief in myself and really start to value who I was, really believe that what I desired was possible and that I could do it in a way where I didn't have to sacrifice things I didn't want to have to sacrifice, like my health or having a family or just, my creative hobbies. And I successfully built two businesses, first a copywriting agency and then my coaching business. And I can honestly say I love my work. I love what I do. Obviously, it's not always easy. And a big, 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 big part of that was really shifting my relationship with money. So that's the game that I'm playing, is really here to empower people to have more conversations around money, to challenge the things that we have been led to believe about what's possible in our relationship with money so that we can have more creativity, so that we can live lives that feel more like play and find ways to be financially abundant and supported doing that.
Ooh, Sarah, you are fun. I like that. Uh, yeah, I'm excited to see how you bring all these different things together. And I'm looking forward to exploring that in our conversation. Thanks for being here. Christopher, let's get to know you. You might let us know more
Yeah,
about you and the game you're playing?
absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm going to say I love that Sarah's bringing fun because I'm going to bring some fun too. So it's going to be a great conversation. My name is Christopher Veal, and let's see, what game am I playing? Really, I'm about bringing more vulnerability into the world. And it started with helping men start to connect with vulnerability more and get past some of the stereotypes and beliefs that we have that we can't be vulnerable, that it's a weakness in us, but we see it as a strength in others. And it's also expanded now into the work that I do with leaders. And I like to help leaders bring more what I call appropriate vulnerability so that they can create more influence and impact and connection with the people they lead. The short version of what I say that I do is I help leaders be the reason people stay, not the reason that they leave. And so that's what I'm up to in the world.
I
Oh,
love
this is
that.
good. This is good. This is good. There's a part of me that is like that gets really amped for this conversation. Another part of me also recognizes like at first I thought I was like anxious, but it's not anxiousness. I think what it is like there's anticipation. There's
Mm.
anticipation in the air because what I get about both of you is that like y'all play, you're playful, but you don't play. Like the things that you go for, like you really go. And I'm like, oh, vulnerability gets to be in the room here. Like what does that look like to step in here with all three of us being leaders and still like on a public platform with people who can come find us and still choose to show up with vulnerability like on our sleeve, you know?
Right.
And do in a way that we're gonna create clients, we're gonna create impact, and we're gonna have fun doing it. Like even that feels vulnerable, you know? And
Right.
so like there's something in here that like I wanna name, I wanna call, I wanna bring into this space and just like feel like, yeah, this feels pretty real right here. Would it like anything pop off for you when I bring that in immediately? And then we'll jump
Well,
forward.
Well,
I just want to say real quick, sometimes being able to bring fun can be vulnerable because we think I can't do that in my work. So I just needed to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah, I jumped in there.
well, I have a question for both of you.
Yeah.
I know you're both in Southern California, so there's a probability that you might answer yes to this, but are you interested or familiar with astrology?
A little bit.
I'm familiar. Go
Okay, a little bit.
ahead.
Yeah, because it's an interesting point that you mentioned about vulnerability, because that was like a big breakthrough for me. And it's something that I learned in my astrology chart that I just like, I have a lot of placements that showed me that I'm here to talk about taboos and I'm
Mm.
here to have uncomfortable conversations. And I think, yeah, thinking of the topic of vulnerability, it definitely not even has been a part, but it's been like a critical like element to being able to do what I want to do in the world. Like we, and I went through that process of really being afraid of being visible and sharing my story and being afraid of being criticized or judged, and had a lot of self-rejection and not really trusting what I wanted to say. And through, I just have so much evidence of doing it and having such a good experience. When I have shared something that's been really hard for me or a challenge that I've been through, that's always been the door that has opened to incredible relationships that have shifted my life, whether that's peers, people who have inspired me, people who have supported me, or people who have become clients and helped me to grow my business. So yeah, it's that thing that we always resist, but there's so much power in, yeah, like looking under the bed or like opening the closet where you think there's a monster. And we take our power back when we confront that, and when we don't let shame hold us back from really speaking to those things, then we get to have power over them and they get to support us.
Yeah, no, that feels very real right here. As you were saying that, there were two questions that were going through the back of my mind. Both of them kind of present tense, and if you're good with it, like I know y'all are outliers, so we're gonna have that part come in. I'm gonna play on the edge side here, right, for today. And Sarah, when you started talking about taboos, I was like, ooh, I wonder where we can go, because I know within me that feels really vulnerable. Like I try and be open, and at the same time, I'm like, my openness does have boundaries, and it's almost like every day I'm trying to expand beyond it. And so just like inviting in taboos like feels like yeah, it feels like an uncomfortable and unknowing, which I'm like, I'm open to that. I'm open to seeing what comes from it. And what got me was like the element of resistance, right? And right now, I'm in a place where I'm feeling more grounded in who I am and what I'm creating. But this is like a 24-hour feel, as in like yesterday at this time, I was still very much in the questioning. And so I'll speak a little bit more to that directly in just a bit. I'm not going to leave y'all hanging here, but just so we can be real with everyone here, like what's a project you have that's like causing you to face a resistance that you're taking on? What's something that you're doing that might be really big in the world, but that's also causing you to have to like grow beyond who you've been in the past? I'll make sure to answer that question as well. I've spoken enough, so I want to give you all a chance to answer it first. Anyone want to take that one on first?
Yeah, can you give the question one more time?
Yeah, like let me give an example and then I'll give the
Yeah.
question. Okay. So right now, so the question overall is what's a project that you're taking on right now? What's something that you're doing that's causing you to have to like confront a resistance here? So with the idea of it not being like, oh, just when we were beginners, just when we were getting into the game, that was when we had to go through it. It's like I have found that these things continue to exist. So for me, what's happening is I'm my resistance is leveling up and allowing like the podcast to grow, and that involves like hiring other people to do more episodes with it, like to help me like yeah, just really build this thing here. And I've been very resistant to that because I've hired people in the past, but I haven't gotten a return on it, and I'm like, is this responsible or not? And so I have to take a bet on myself right now, and so that's where it's shown up for me. Sarah, Christopher, is there anything that's shown up for you, or anything that you're creating out in the world where that's bringing it up for you?
Yeah, definitely. I always have at least 20 things I could talk about in this category, but probably the biggest one for me right now is devoting time to my music. Because so I built my whole business just following my intuition, right? Like I had no business training. I thought I was going to have to go and do an MBA and start from scratch and re-educate myself. And, just step by step, my intuition drew me to opportunities that kind of paved the way for me to have my own businesses. And it happened so much faster than I ever could have imagined. And no, I didn't have to go back and get an MBA. but a big part of the vision for my business was to have the freedom to create whatever I wanted and to have time to invest in creative projects. And, I published my book, The Six Figure Creative, last year, and that was probably the biggest creative project I've taken on. Thank you. And that idea came to me just through an intuitive hit. Like I was like, I'm going to write a book this year, and I just had that insight, and so I, you know, dedicated myself to bringing that project to fruition. And now my intuition is really telling me to pour into my music practice. So I don't have any real like music background. I used to dance when I was younger. I've been playing guitar pretty badly for the last 10 years. Like I just hired a guitar teacher. I have written some songs. I have performed some of my songs here and there over the years. But I feel really like unskilled. I feel really like it's challenging for me to realize my ideas. I don't have like a specific project that I'm working on. So it feels really like open-ended and unclear. And I don't know what's next. And I don't know which direction I'm supposed to go in, but I just feel this pull to be investing more of my time into it. And I know that when I do get into it, when I'm playing, when I'm singing, I really like I get in that flow state, like time just disappears and I want to be in there for longer and longer. But then there's the voice in my head that's like, well, this isn't making you any money. Like you're not skilled enough to be, make money as a musician. You don't have time on top of your existing projects of, having a business. I'm doing IVF at the moment. We're hoping to have kids. So it's like, this is so unrealistic to take on another brand, like, it's not a brand new skill, but it's still relatively new to me. So there's so many logical reasons why it doesn't make sense to create time for this. But I know that my intuition is telling me this for a reason. And I know that I'm not going to know where it's going to end up. And even if it's just something that, it shifts my energy and it pours into me and it makes me more creative so that when I do show up to those other things, I have more to give. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But it's really uncomfortable for someone who, over the years of being an entrepreneur has got used to having a clear goal, having a clear plan and a schedule and taking action every day, So yeah, I'm definitely in like the uncomfortable, messy middle of constantly coming up against resistance, but really committing to just spending a little bit of time each day to see what's going to unfold.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Oh, so many thoughts on that. Here's what I'll say. For me, I've been doing a fair amount of keynote speaking over the last couple of years. And so for my edge that you're talking about, it's getting onto bigger stages and in bigger events. I've been doing some kind of mid-level stuff and I love it and I enjoy it. And there's still what I call my inner critic that's like, yeah, but Christopher, are you really sure you're ready for that? And so that's what I'm continually leaning into. What you were just sharing, Sarah, what it made me think of is something that someone shared with me, and I can tell you, but I don't always practice it myself. It's stop being afraid of what can go wrong and start getting excited for what could go right.
I love that.
And so for me, what helps sometimes is instead of trying to make sure I have it all mapped out, because usually when I do, like it never goes that way anyways, taking that first step and then seeing what happens. I spent 9 years in the Marine Corps. And one of the things we talked about is we had this model of improvise and adapt. You create the plan, but the bad guys don't know what you're expecting. And so as soon as things start out, you have to now be ready to respond based on it, knowing what your ultimate goal is. And so that's what I continue to try and lean into. And some days I do better than others.
I love that. And I love thinking about the bad guys as like your inner critic. You don't know
Yeah.
what they're going to do next, but you've got to be ready to respond and outsmart them.
Right. And sometimes that inner critic, that voice, isn't necessarily trying to derail you, right? For me, mine is all about or not complacency, but the status quo. It doesn't like change and doesn't recognize that sometimes change can be good. And so it's also I need to check in and go, is that the voice I really want to listen to? Because sometimes it's a warning for me, but often it's just afraid of change.
That's so cool. You were in Marine Corps. That must have given you a lot of
That was
skills.
definitely an experience. Yep.
Yeah.
Christopher, when you talk about like the 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 inner critic right here, what got me was this element of like safety,
Mhm.
right? It's like we know the status quo is safe, right? Like, and so but then we don't know what's on the other side. We know that there's some good things. I often describe like my experience of being an outlier is like I'm on an island and there's other people also around. I can see other people on islands, and then like there's some. It almost feels like a Disney movie, but like I'm like hanging out on the island and all of a sudden something floats over like a Coke can, but I'm like. I've never seen this before. Where did this come from? None of the other islands have it. There must be something out there that I don't know because this
Mhm.
Coke can had to have been created from something, you know? But to get to it, it means I have to go on the journey of leaving the status quo, what I know, in order to go to wherever else this next thing comes in, right? That's the visual I get as you do this. It looks like you want to say something to that, Christopher.
Well,
Jump
as
in.
you say, it reminds me something a colleague of mine and a good friend of mine said once is you can't learn to swim if you keep holding onto the edge of the pool.
Hmm.
So at some point, you have to go out into the waters and be willing to let go of that safety because if you just hold on to it, you're not getting anywhere.
Outliers, this is a check-in. Feels like a good time for a check-in. Where in your world right now are you holding on to the edge of the pool? Where have you seen the evidence that something else is out there, something bigger, something grander, something for you that maybe no one else sees or it isn't for them, but it is for you? And what would it take to go out and just start swimming and start learning that? That feels good. That feels good. Sarah, anything you want to say on this? There's something else I'm going to bring in a bit, but like I want to make sure that we bring you in on this if there's something that's calling to you.
I just really like that idea of hanging onto the edge of the pool because I was thinking like the lot I was on vacation. I got back last week, so I'm in those that like back to school vibes where you're like I'm so excited and inspired to get back to work and like get back into my habits and my routines. And yeah, I committed to daily songwriting, and yeah, exactly like this analogy, like the past version of me would have been, and this voice came up, like, oh, I should just go because I bought courses on songwriting, right? So I was like, oh, I should watch one of the courses and then do what they say. And then I was like, you know what? No, I'm just going to trust myself and I'm just going to allow my creative process to unfold. And yeah, like that exact thing. I just sat down yesterday and I ended up writing some lyrics, and that's kind of what I felt like doing in that time. And I still had the question of like, well, how am I going to turn this into a song? And then today I sat down and I already tried to negotiate out of doing it. I was like, oh, but there's all these other like fires happening that I needed to put out. And I was like, no, like I made the commitment to do this as my number one thing each day. So I was like, I'm just going to do it for 10 minutes. Sat down, picked up where I left off yesterday. And then like a rhythm just came into my head and I recorded that. Then like some percussion came into my head. Then I recorded that. Then a melody came, and it's like just in the act of like letting go of the side of the pool and like one stroke at a time, like what I needed is coming to me one step at a time. And I just think that's such a great analogy of like, just get in the pool. That's all you have to do. 10 minutes, just jump in the pool and then figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and remember, it's about progress, not perfection, right? So even spending 10 minutes, you moved closer than if you had sat there waiting to get it perfect and not starting at all.
All right. Well,
Mm-hmm.
now, Christopher, because I'm looking at your name, it says Vulnerability Vanguard, right? And all right, now let's talk about the vulnerability that's involved in letting go of it, right? Because
Oh,
I
absolutely.
have to play on both of these things. Like you'll find with me, like the moment someone's like, just go out and be your authentic self. I'm like, but what's the cost of it? Like
Hmm.
we gotta let them like play on both ends, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking about this here. Um, yeah, there's some component to this. I'm curious about like what feels vulnerable within these elements for yourself, or like, and I'm gonna put that in there. Let's see, the question isn't fully formed, but I want to make sure that we're looking at this from like the 360 degrees. Christopher, it looks like you can take this. Go ahead.
Well, here's something I want to throw in. For me, I use the term appropriate vulnerability. So this is
Mm,
not about you have to be vulnerable about everything with everyone everywhere, because that's not right. That's just vulnerability vomit. I'm going to use an alliteration, right? Don't do that. But what I talk about is, and when I talk about this idea of appropriate vulnerability, I think about vulnerability for the sake of deepening connection, right? And so in this moment with this person, where might I be able to be a little bit more vulnerable for the sake of creating more connection? Not to manipulate, because that's a whole different thing. And the other thing that I've learned along the way is you have to do it and not expect that it's going to get reciprocated. When I first started leaning into this idea and exploring masculinity and vulnerability, because 9 years in the Marine Corps, 6 years in construction doing project management, those aren't areas where they talk a lot about vulnerability. We don't like hug it out and like, hey, let's have a big kumbaya. That's just not happening. But what I learned is as I started to be more comfortable being vulnerable and not worrying about how it was received, that's when it was freeing for me. Because early on, I was like, oh, that person reacted. I shouldn't do that. And what I've understood is they're on a different journey than I am. And just because I'm being vulnerable doesn't mean that if they don't receive it well, I should stop doing it. So I say appropriate vulnerability, and it's depending on how safe you feel with that person. The other thing that I've learned is sometimes when you are willing to be vulnerable, I call it the gift of going second. When you do it first, they're more open and more likely to reciprocate.
I love that. Like, I have a coach and he says you can never take anyone any deeper than you're willing to go yourself, or that you've gone yourself. Actually, not you're willing, but then you've gone yourself. And it's fun thing where it's like it shows up, right? It's like I know even here, like sometimes I'll ask a question, I'm like, oh, I gotta say it first because like if I don't, like this, we're gonna be at this level. And even then, I'm like, I don't know how to even shift into whatever is there. So I appreciate that. You know, as Christopher was answering this, we can definitely anything around vulnerability, please bring it in, Sarah Mac. But like the thing that was getting me was like in the way that like I could see Christopher in vulnerability, like Sarah, I see you in intuition right now, right? Like there hasn't been an answer you've given that hasn't like also come back to that. And so there's something really delicious in the way that you've answered this, which is the juxtaposition of intuition and like structure. There was do you mind if I call out the two things that struck me with it? One, when you were talking about you talked about I built both my businesses off of intuition, like didn't like just started going at it, and then you talked about like now the music creation that's coming out of you, and you said, well, that's so different because I don't have a clear plan, I don't have a schedule, I'm not able to commit. I was like, this is someone who just now said that she like built her thing on intuition, then she moves into this. So I thought that was really lovely, right? And I would like to give some space on that. And then the second thing here that also felt really great was like with the with the music, you like what I'm hearing is like a lot of time blocking. You're like, I don't know what like there's time set aside for this. And in that moment, I might call myself to see what like is intuitively happening in the moment, but I'm blocking that time and I'm gonna honor that time and go from there. And I just think that like I want to make sure we give space to this here because you seem to have done it in a very grounded way.
Yeah, this is just summarizing like the whole conversation I've been having with myself lately. And, I think a lot of creative people, especially when you have multiple passions and skills, like I am, we're just always in an identity crisis of like, what thing should I be focusing on? Like what's the priority? Do I have to maybe put to the side for like a period of time so that I can really follow through and complete things? And yeah, understanding my astrology chart has given me a lot of self-compassion and given me real like tangible strategies to support myself in this because I am pretty diverse and balanced in many things. And I think um, that's this strategy that you just named is kind of where I've come to and what best supports me, which is having clear boundaries around time commitment, but then
Mhm.
within that, giving myself so much freedom. So, for example, and this is why I love traveling because whenever I'm on a plane, and I'm stuck in a seat and like can journal through those crunchy things that like I wouldn't normally really stick with, and I can reassess like what are my priorities when I land. Like what are my true priorities right now, and then what are the habits and what is the schedule that's going to support them to come to fruition. And I always really like to put whatever that thing I have the resistance around as my number one. It's that like eat your frog first idea. Like whatever we need the most willpower to get to, like let that be the number one priority. And so yeah, that's kind of where I am at the moment because I've also tried to be really granular and scheduling out, breaking down into small tasks, scheduling out very specific things. So that doesn't tend to work with me because I need to be able to follow my intuition and my energy and to really like go with that flow. And as soon as I feel too boxed in, that inner rebel will, throw its toys out of the pram and be like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to do any work today. Like don't tell me what to do. So it's definitely a fine balance of structure and commitment and containers within which I get total freedom to play within, very clear intentions for what I want to be working on.
Yeah, so now as I'm hearing this, like I'm thinking on the other side here, I'm like, Christopher, you're like Yeah, like I'm in construction project management, like 9 years in the Marines. Like I'm like in my mind, I'm like that would be those feel like structure first. And
Oh,
like
yeah,
and
absolutely.
so like I'm curious about how you be in with this conversation and how you bring in more than just structure into the work that you do.
Let's just say I had to adjust in those. That's not my default. As Sarah, as you were just talking about it, what I think of as a term that I really love is called structured flexibility. So the metaphor I use is a sandbox, right? Give me the frame of the sandbox and let me know what toys I have to play within it, but don't tell me how to play in the sandbox. So for me, the example I like to use is when I was writing my book. And if you haven't read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, I'm going to tell you read it now. That one is a lifesaver. But I used one of the tools of the toys that I had was habit stacking, and so I didn't know what the traditional process of writing a book. I thought you had to start from beginning to end and like have it all mapped out, and that's why it took me almost 50 years to write a book. And what I found is if I would just set aside time every morning, and so the structure that I created was in the morning when I sit down, my routine was I'd have my coffee. This isn't coffee, it's too late in the day. But as soon as my cup hit the desk, I start a timer for 30 minutes. And for that 30 minutes, all I would do was dedicate time towards my book, whether it was research, whether it was writing, editing, whatever it was. And so using that, it gave me the structure, like the frame of that sandbox to do something towards a book, even if it was watching a YouTube video, but I wasn't attached to what's the things I have to accomplish in it. And so I share that because for me, if somebody says to me, give me the long detailed list, like you have to have all your milestones and stuff, I did it when I was in project management, didn't like it because that's not how I operate. But let me know what do I need to get done, and then let me find my way. If you know Myers Briggs, I'm a big fan of that. I'm an ENFP, and that says a lot in itself. But I'll get stuff done, but it's like all wandering all over the place. And so that's what I found I really needed to lean into is what's my process and how can I work within it towards the goals that I'm accomplishing.
Outliers, like as I hear this is hitting me. This is hitting me right now because uh there's a I'm playing with different levels of my own leadership and like what leadership looks like for me and what I'm allowed to do in it. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm coaching, am I allowed to do what I like the way I want to show up and so forth. So I love hearing this. And Christopher, there's something that I really enjoy about you. We're still getting to know each other here. But what I enjoy about you is one, I see you like in your practical thought leadership. So like I hear that component comes up, and what you're able to do is like juxtapose two things, and like you put like you're able to like accelerate or like amplify a word in a phrase with just one other word, right?
Mm.
So like when you said structured flexibility, I was like, oh, that feels like a Christopher thing, like where where it's
I
like
wish I
it's
could
like
take credit for it. I don't know where I got it from. Yeah.
okay, there's even when we're looking at the vulnerability, like appropriate vulnerability. It's like there's qualifiers to these words that actually allow it to be more expansive in it, and at the same time, I hear it as unique thought leadership because people will talk about structure or flexibility, and you're like, here goes both and. Or
Yeah.
here goes this sliver here. Play in that sliver and see what you get from that. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, that's a really important thing you're hitting on too, because a lot of the times we get trapped in either or thinking, right? Either I can do this or I can do that. Like, can I use you for an example for a moment, Sarah?
Sure.
Like, either I can be creative and play with my music, or I can be, and I'll just make it like responsible and run my business and all stuff. And I would say, what does both and look like? What does it look like to play with that creativity of the music and like do all the things you have to do? So I think that's what traps us sometimes. We get into this false choice of I have to be one or the other. And I'm a big believer in like, all right, let's just mash it up and see what happens, right? You never know. And it might not work, but you might surprise yourself and go, wow, I got something even more amazing than I thought I would have.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, Sarah, I want to hear from you. I just want to also just say real quick, thank you, outliers. I say we model the conversation in here. Christopher, you asking, can I use you as an example, and then waiting for Sarah's response.
Mhm.
Like, thank you for that because I think a
No.
lot of times people just like they'll just start making up things about people, and I'm like, we don't know that's true yet,
Yeah.
you
And I
know?
could be way out based on what I said, right? But it's
We
like,
don't know that's true
it'll be
yet.
like, Christopher, you're screwed up like a football bat. Don't do that again.
No, I mean it's such a gift to be challenged in our thinking, and yeah, it's an interesting question because I think as someone I had an ADHD diagnosis many years ago when I was like in my burnout, and it's given me, it's taken a lot of time for me to build trust with myself to complete things. And that was, obviously like skill sets that I had to learn, um, just ways of being. I had to develop focus and, meditate and build systems of organization, as well as tools to really listen to and trust my intuition, which has obviously taken me really, really far as an entrepreneur. And yeah, I always feel the pull between my 5,000 hobbies that I wish I was doing.
Yep.
And I've had to learn to prioritize and, yeah, to let things have their moment and to put things on the back burner and to trust that if something is meant for me, that I will create the time and space for it and I will complete it and I will follow through. And and yeah, this is just like an ongoing conversation for me. And I've definitely been in periods where, and I think this is a common way that creative people sabotage sometimes, is taking on too many things as a way of holding back from doing the sometimes scary moves that really allow us to succeed in fewer projects. And yeah, and I've, as someone who's been through burnout, that's where I was from my past career when I started my business. So I kind of got a little like intense on the boundaries because I've experienced what it's like not to have health. And I know if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So I'm very protective over my sleep and my health habits. I'm really taking care of my health and my body as number one. And it was such a gift to start my business in a burnout because I didn't have that much time and energy. So I really was very lean from the beginning, was, I never had the option to just like work 100-hour weeks or whatever to get things off the ground. So it really caused me to have to trust myself to do things in my own unique way. And I think, yeah, that's obviously given me so much more freedom since recovering my health and being able to pour more of that extra bandwidth that I built around my business into creative projects. And I've definitely been in periods where, yeah, like I said, it's been trying to do too many things at once, and the quality of the work that I'm doing, isn't at its best. And so yeah, it's a constant negotiation. And yeah, and I think there's parts of me that really do operate from fear of burnout. And but yeah, I really do believe in the and both. And I know, I'm a big believer that we're gonna succeed, that we'll succeed more when we embody the desires for our work and our vision, when we really choose to step into our dream life now, not just hustle so that we can get the payoff later, but really build from a place where we love the way that we're building and we love our lives in the process. Because otherwise, what's the freaking point, right? Like tomorrow is never a promise. So I know that the more I honor my creativity and create time and space for that, the more I'm embodying my vision as an entrepreneur who has a business that supports that, the more I am better equipped to help others to do that for themselves. And I track clients who also share those values and who want to do business in the way that I do business uniquely.
This is cool. This is cool. I have a coach and a mentor who says uh a goal is not a place to get to, it's a place to come from. And what I hear from you, Sarah, is that like you're like, I come from the place that I want to go and build these things from. Like and I also hear an element of like uh, cherishing the gifts of limitation at times, or at least cherishing the gifts that you have at the present moment, whatever happened to be. In this case, it ended up being that you were like, there was, I'm calling it limitation around due to the burnout,
Hmm.
but you use that to help create something really expansive that grew in a beautiful way because you, yeah, if I'm gonna be real right now, I have two young kids, ages 2 and 5, and I'm like, if I knew what I knew about business back beforehand, like all this would have been great. Like I would have just done something different. And in hearing you talk, I'm like, would I? Like that, like, or not even would I? I definitely would have if I knew what I knew. But like, is is that actually a disadvantage for me right now? Or is there something else that's being able to be created that I'm not allowing myself to see? Doesn't mean I'm not even doing it. I just may not be embracing it. Like maybe there's a reason why I wouldn't have done podcast panels for example. Like I haven't been on anyone else's, and I don't know like many other people who also do it. But like I get a chance to meet awesome people all day because I'm like, I can't just go to a conference, but I could meet a good number of people and build a good relationship with them, and we'll see where the relationship goes afterwards. But like from sitting here, and then if my kid needs to go somewhere, I'd be like, we can reschedule. Like there's something there. So I don't have an end to this. I'm just taking it in. Christopher, I see you. Go
I
ahead.
want to say something here because you said something a moment ago about kind of looking at past decisions we made with current information.
Mm,
And I think that's a slippery slope for us
mm,
because you will just get caught in this endless loop. You can always question decisions you made. What I say is, what have you learned? But I wouldn't necessarily go back and do something different because I'm operating from information I didn't have. But did I make the best decision I can in this moment with what I do have, right? That's something I took away from my time in the Marine Corps. One of the best leaders I ever worked for, he used to say, an 80% solution on time is better than a 100% solution too late. And
Oh,
so
so good.
it's important that we don't sit there and try and get the perfect plan because then the opportunity will pass us. But how can we act on what we have? And then if we get new information, we look at, do we need to adjust that decision we made, right? And that's something that when I share that with leaders that I work with sometimes, they just kind of like have this mind blowing moment because they're like, wait a minute, I do that so much that they hold on. And so I just love telling people, you don't have to have a perfect decision. Make the best decision in the moment that you can and then adjust as you need, right? Come back to, like I said, improvise and adapt.
I'm also a big believer that your story is your curriculum. So
mm.
it's like whenever we got set out to lead or to create solutions or create impact, that like triggers the universal university, and they're like, right,
Mhm.
sign them up for struggle 101.
Yep.
It's like,
Get on their ticket on the bus.
yeah, exactly. Like, let's put them through the challenges that they're then going to be able to help others through. And it just always happens that way. Whatever you are able to navigate and the tools and the gifts that you develop through that gives you so much gold and strength and power to impact and support others down the road.
Well, and sometimes the experience you have is what points you to your path, even though you don't know it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So outliers, I'm thinking about this here, and there's a reason why we are having these conversations right now, right? Because of our experiences, right? Like they've brought us to this place, and I'm going to invite you, outliers, for any of you that are sitting on the fence, that's wondering, should I not? Like hear this part here. Like, what's the gift and the experiences you've had and the curriculum that you've lived? I think about it, I'm like, oh, my soul's on this earth to help, like it's really here to help make sure everyone belongs. Like that's it. Why? Because my whole path in life was fighting for my own belonging. I do it now with entrepreneurs, and so like it's an interesting way to be like, here's a bigger game I'm playing, and here goes how I'm doing it in this particular path. But no matter what, like I'm always doing that. I feel like there's something in it that really shows up. I don't know about y'all. We're gonna start wrapping up in just a bit, but I'm curious about this for you. I feel like there's one challenge that I keep like having to face over and over again. It changes, but it only shows up every time I'm like trying to level up. It has a different face. It's almost like Bowser. I'm thinking about like like it's like
Oh,
Mario
you're going
still
old
there with
school with that
Bowser. Yeah.
reference.
Oh yeah. It feels fresh to me. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be hip. Let me bring up Bowser. But this thing for me, it's my number one fear is being alone, and so for me the barrier, I think it was like a spiral staircase where like a meteor went down, and the meteor was like the aloneness like meteor, and every time I want to go up to the next level, I have to figure out a way to jump over that, whether it's like, oh, I'm gonna be the only one that's saying this thought leadership, or I've never seen anyone else do this thing here before, or whatever, or maybe everyone else is doing it, but now if I did it, my group of people be out. So I'm curious for you, and I have like, what's is there? Does that show up for you? Do you not the aloneness part, but is there something that almost seems like a recurring thing that you have to like that once you do it, you're able to go and like step into a higher level of play for you?
I'll jump in. I know for me, I fall into the trap of I got to figure it out and do it myself. And I
Mm.
forget to lean into community. And then when I get past that and I go, oh, wait a minute. Like I got people in my world that are here to help me, or just like, even if it's nothing more than, hey, Christopher, you got this. So for me, I tell myself, I've got to figure it out and get the solution. And that just stops me.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear is the fear of rejection and fear of judgment. And that's definitely been what has held me back from just doing it. And yeah, when I think about, probably my first biggest lesson in that was, I realized when I started out as a freelance writer, and then I wanted to start my own copywriting agency because I knew I could grow my income. And I had website copy as an action item on my to-do list for 2 years. And I hadn't even noticed that I just kept bumping it down. And I had all the skills. Like, I was a trained copywriter. Like, I was doing this professionally for people all day long. So I knew how to do it. My brother had built me a WordPress template. I had everything I needed. And that's when I was confronted with this concept of the fear of visibility, of like fear of rejection, fear of judgment. And that unconscious survival mechanism was just like bumping that down the list, preventing me from becoming more visible. And then working through that really became the gateway through which I was then able to help others overcome that, and to get, more visible in their work and their brand, and to make more money by getting over the fear of being seen.
I mean, and like this is cool. This is cool because I think at the core of all this here is just like I'm trying to give outliers a chance to see you, right? And to see themselves in you, or to see themselves through you being willing enough to be out there, both in all the ways that you're doing it. So thank you for that, because I feel like there's so many different levels. Visibility is a tricky one because it's like I can be seen and no one may. I could be well known but not known well,
Mm.
and like, and so that's fun. Y'all, we are coming up to what I think should be like a good wrap for this conversation. Outliers, let's play in the world of visibility real quick here. All right. This conversation has been a spectacular one, and it's been done on behalf of you, but also on behalf of us, and for anyone else that can really relate. And so my ask here is that we make it easy for them to be able to come and join us in this conversation. Would you mind taking some time to just go and share this episode out with your world, and let them know about like the good things that came in here? But I'm going to ask you to take things one step further. And that's to join us in what we call the one person, one conversation at a time initiative. And there's something in my heart of hearts that just believes that if you can think of one person in your world who would really benefit from the conversation that Sarah and Christopher and myself had today, and send it to them. Say, I heard this and I was thinking of you, and you send it over to them. Something in my mind like cuts through all virality, cuts through everything about shares. It's just like the right person gets the right message at the right time, with someone like knowing that they care. There's something for me that just says like if we do this, outliers, like we shift the world. We shift the world. And so like my ask is that you go and you think of one person and you send this message, this episode to them with deep intention. Let them know that you care. And if you receive this already, and that's why you're listening to this, my ask is that you pay it forward, because you know that it helps. You know that it helps. All right.
Can I offer something that might like add the incentive to that?
Please, Christopher.
When you share it with the person, let them know one thing you took away from it, and also
Mm.
say, I'd love to hear what you take from it, right? That might be that
Oh,
extra incentive for them to go, ooh, that's what they got. Let me see what I get.
look at you
And then you can
opening
spark,
up
oh my goodness, a
conversations.
conversation. This
Yes.
can happen. What a crazy idea.
Opening up. I love that, right? Because what it's done is that it's taken this from a passive element and moved it into something else. And you'll see, like in the conversations, I'll speak to outliers directly, because like there's no reason to do anything unless we're going to transform, And so Christopher, if you don't mind, I'm probably going to keep adding that
Oh,
to
sure. Take
that.
it.
I think it's
Again,
part of the ask. I think it's part of the ask. No, it's great. So we've come to our time. What we're going to do here is I close this thing here by putting outliers to the side. They've gotten what they came here for. The two questions I have for you are: one, can you let us know how we can go deeper down the journey with you? So let us know your best contact. There's lots of different ways, but let us know the best ways to go down. And then two is going back to the element of like, there's no purpose of doing this unless there's room for transformation. Like I want to check in with you. Like, what's an insight or a takeaway that you are leaving this conversation with for yourself? So the outliers are taken care of. Anything that's directed to them is an outsight, that is not an insight, right? So it's an insight you got. And if you got none, you can be like, nothing's really coming to me. And that's totally great too. All right. So Christopher, why don't we start with you? How can we go deeper down the journey? And then what's an insight you got?
sure. The probably two best ways, obviously LinkedIn, and you'll know you've got the right Christopher Veal because I've got vulnerability. I can't even say it. Vulnerability Vanguard in my title. And the other one would be my website, which is echelon-left.com. And that's ECHELON-left. And that's a tribute to my time in the military. So those are the two best ways to reach me. And let's see, what am I taking away? I think what I'm reminded of is the power of connection. Before we jumped on this call, I hadn't been able to learn a little bit about you. Like we showed up and we're here, and look at the magic that we created in this conversation. And so I'm really appreciating what can happen when people show up and are willing to be present and open in the conversation. So thank you for being vulnerable in this with me.
You got it, Christopher. Thanks for being here. And then Sarah, bring us home.
Yeah, thank you so much. I also have a podcast. It's called Creative Magic Club. We talk a lot about money mindset, brands, strategy, entrepreneurship, creativity, and astrology. And my book is available on Amazon. It's The Six Figure Creative. My name is Sarah Mack, and my website is with sarahmack.com, and that's MAC, and Sarah with an H. And my insight, so many nuggets. I took some really good notes actually from our conversation. But I think the thing that was a great reminder that I really want to take away with me is to be in the both and to know that, yeah, just to remind myself that we get to create that too, right? If we haven't seen a way that it's been possible before, like we get to be the new pathway for the both and for the new solution. So, yeah, I've loved this. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm grateful to both of you for bringing your time, your experience, and your expertise to this conversation. It's been fun, and I've enjoyed being vulnerable with you all. Like this has been really great. So, outliers, until the next time that we all talk, remember this: be you on purpose. Journey on.